Okay, looking at this shot, there's quite a bit of debris, scratches, this sort of large black debris that's through here into various frames. But what I want to do in this particular clip, if we click on it, you'll see there's actually warping in the beginning of the shot. If I step through that, you can see there's this warping taking place. So I'd like to correct that, stabilize the shot before I actually use the debris tool to actually start to clean this up. So let's go to the DeWarp tool. And with DeWarp, we actually use tracking as the main mode of actually registering the shot and actually putting it back into order and sort of unwarping it at that point. So to do that, you can actually click on various shots in the frame to create tracking points. I'm going to click on a couple of these in the frame. We'll set these up here just so that we get a good reference throughout there. The more the better, although if he's walking through the frame and so on, we might have issues with him setting up that we might have to re-register a tracking point. But let's take a look at that. Let's start that by setting these tracking points, and then we're going to hit track. Now, we can also look at the tracking graph here, and when I hit track, you'll see it plot out the points once it's done tracking. So now I see my points up here that have been tracked. If they were, this tracking graph here is where the points, the yellow is actually where the data of the camera movement was going on. If I wanted to smooth that out further or change the motion area to try to bring these together further, I can adjust those. I can clear my stuff, delete it, and start over. But I think we actually got a fairly good tracking result on that for the DeWarp. So what I want to do now is let's just hide that graph, and we will go ahead and render that out. So now what I have in terms of that warping is still there, but less so. You can see that it's not popping as severely as it was. So now actually what I want to do is I also want to do a stabilization pass on this. We looked at the stabilization before using tracking, and you just saw how we could use tracking. In this case, I want to use our auto tracking capability, which is based on the camera motion analysis data. So let's look at that graph. You can see up here, if I hit Shift C, it'll extend that out, and I can move this down. You can see that the camera is basically low motion, fairly static, with a slow pan move here and back to more of a static shot. But what I want to do right now is I want to just place my mouse in the region of that curve, and I want to enable that by selecting it, which it already is enabled, and I'm going to ripple that down to this other setup here. This is also already enabled. That's how you enable that, by reaching into these areas and then turning on these curves. So now from there, we're going to basically render that. It'll analyze it first for the motion data that it's going, and use that to be the stabilization factor point. From there, it'll actually then apply that when it renders it out. So we'll do this, and then we'll look at cleaning up the shot using DRS and our debris tool. So this is typical process in DRS, is looking at the image, removing any instabilities in the shot. This will improve the quality of the debris tool because now its motion is more on the debris and not the actual camera motion. So now that it's gone through this, it's actually now rendering the stability back into the shot. Okay, so now let's go back here. We're going to go to our debris tool here. I'm going to take off the motion curve on this guy just so we don't need to see that. And we're going to initially enable our debris tool here. And again, as we've looked at before, the preview tool and the preview for a marked range shot are down here. Initially, I just want to get a sense of where my settings are between my edging, my aggression, my contrast sensitivity, as well as my sizing. In this case, I'm going to pull my size down a little bit further, put this at like 15. And what I'll do is here, I'm going to increase my, you can see here I just got that, but I want to increase my aggression a bit more. I want to try to get more of the smaller debris elements, which is starting to pick up, and adjust my contrast sensitivity as well. Now I'm getting that curve as well as quite a bit of the debris, and I can toggle that on and off just to see exactly where it is by holding down the T key and toggling it. That is with my white debris filter. Let's do a similar pass with the black debris filter and see if I can get a bit of this debris that's popping up here. We'll reset our default values here. See, I'm getting that. I'm going to do a similar thing. I'm going to bring this down to around 25, but I'm going to increase my contrast sensitivity and aggression. You can see I'm getting more of this black debris that was up in here. Still not as much as I'd like, but at the same time, I don't want to overly start going into areas like this where this is just a shadow or a light leak onto his hand, which is probably set up by the contrast sensitivity. Let's preview that again. I'm still getting that, but I know where that's at. I can clean that up. So I'm going to come in here, turn these on, and we're going to actually render out this marked range here. It's going through, it's catching a lot of the scratches, the camera motion that was defining the stability. You can see how stable the shot is here. And we're able to clean this up quite a bit. I saw, what is this, hand move there with artifacts I want to clean up with DRS, but if I go back to my DRS tool now and come into here, and you can see I didn't get everything that I wanted to get with my auto filter, but certainly I can turn on Shift W will actually show me where these artifacts were. So now, earlier on, we had talked about that in his hand. I can bring that back and I can step through here if I see other points that maybe are not debris, but are artifacting. I can correct those by right-clicking on it and drawing a box over it. Here, because I went with a smaller filter size, you can see that I missed this debris here, but I'm going to pick that up with my DRS tool. And it looks like, in this case here, what I want to do is go back up here. I'm going to turn on my hard tool here with my blur, draw a box over that. Didn't do a good result. So what I'm showing you here is that using these different tools, you can get the kind of quality you want, where I brought back in that edge with the shadow, with the light around there without any artifacting. So we can come up here and capture some of these other things that may have been in the scene. That looks like it's actually there, more than one frame. It has to be, this is a, actually in the screen. Here's a shot here of some element that popped up on the screen that I want to clean up. So you can go through here with DRS and manually clean up things that the auto filter or our shine tool didn't catch. However, if you remember when we were using the debris tool, I had used very small settings for that. So now what we want to do is reset these default settings here. I'm going to make sure I can still capture some of the larger pieces of debris. And if so, what I could do here is actually increase that size slightly and see if it's capturing even more so. But I don't want to get too aggressive because now I'm bringing in artifacts and information that are not debris. This is just light that's moving through on a shirt, on it. You can see as the shirt moves through there, that light is moving with it. But this is the definition of debris, this type of artifacting that pops up here that we want to clean up and remove. So let's go over our DRS tool. We can draw a box around that and clean these things up. So in here, I just made a fix up here, but you can see it's slightly blurry compared to the surrounding pixels. Not too bad, but if I reject that and I want to clean it up again, you can see doing the various types of repairs. This is a low motion because we looked at the camera motion was very static, so I wouldn't really need to be working on high. But I do also have tools that are hard that can change sort of the result of the fix. So here I could do a blur. Now you can see I got a fairly decent result. If I went too hard on that, you can see if it blurs. I have edge preserving where I want to do a fix on an edge here, but I want to preserve the edge. That may have actually not preserved the edge as much as I'd like. So a blur might blur that edge, which it did. But if I go back to low and do a fix on that, I get them. So you need to choose the tool that actually provides the best result. So in this case, I just cleaned up that debris that was going through his hair using the low motion, looking frame before and frame behind, still preserving the hair. If I were trying to do that, say with blur, I may now get an artifact that you don't want. So I can right click over that and bring it back, or I could reject it. That provides you the ability to go back and, try something out, and if it doesn't work properly, you can repair it. So we were able to take out the shot. If we go back to the beginning, I'm going to continue to work on the shot, but the main thing we wanted to look at was the dewarping on this. And so we're at the beginning, looking at that shot now. It's much more stable. The warp is out of it. I could work on that further, depending on how many tracking points are on there. And now at this point, I would focus on the debris and the dirt.